You're listening to Systemic Era Podcast. The failure was designed.
Trump gamble backfires as Dems poised to seize control of 10 GOP-held statehouses, based on an article by Kevin Hardy, line. The real prize in 2026 is not a mood, it's power. The article's own evidence. The reporting is about state legislative battles this November, where Democrats are trying to flip chambers, break GOP supermajorities, and build trifectas in places like Michigan, Iowa, North Carolina, and Pennsylvania. The cited reason is familiar affordability, voter dissatisfaction, and a favorable midterm environment. But the deeper story is not enthusiasm. It is that the next legislature elected in a dozen battlegrounds will help decide veto power, redistricting, and who gets to turn policy into law for years. Power is the point. The piece correctly shows where actual power sits in state houses, not in campaign slogans. Republicans hold 28 state legislatures and nearly 55% of all state legislative seats. That is institutional control, not just electoral look. It is what lets them override governors, redraw maps, and lock in advantages even when they are losing public support. Their own operatives say the quiet part out loud of the 2026 races matter because the legislators elected now will shape redistricting and the balance of power for years to come. That is the real frame, not competitive races, not good year for Democrats. Power over maps, vetoes, and chamber control is what is being contested. Republicans are not defending the status quo. The article leans on the language of defense and offense, as if this were a normal partisan chess match. It is not. The GOP's redistricting push was driven by a White House effort to give Republicans more U.S. House seats, and 10 states have now completed Medicaid redistricting, a practice not seen since the 1800s. That is not routine administration. It is a structural power grab carried out through state governments. Republican officials then try to recast this as savvy politics. The Republican State Leadership Committee brags about redistricting successes while accusing Democrats of being dragged left by a socialist wing. That is misdirection. The issue is not rhetorical purity tests. It is that Republicans are using state power to rewrite the rules of future representation. Democrats need to treat state power like state power. The article is strongest when it gets concrete in Michigan. Democrats would gain the trifecta if they take the House while holding the Senate. In Iowa, breaking the GOP supermajority would give a potential Democratic governor far more power. In North Carolina, a single seat could break Republican supermajority control and stop veto overrides. That is the level of seriousness the moment requires. Democrats do not need to pretend that winning a chamber is symbolic. It is a mechanism for stopping manufactured gridlock and forcing consequences onto governing. The Michigan line about childcare, data centers, and affordability is useful precisely because it treats legislation as something that can materially alter people's lives. That is the frame Democrats should keep, not vibes, not caution, not managerial moderation, governing power. At the same time, the party should stop speaking as if record fundraising is the story. Money matters, but the article's own numbers show the real benchmark. Republicans already control more seats, more legislatures, and more map-making power. Cash is an input. Power is the output. The misdirection is the message. The article quotes both sides, but the deeper asymmetry is obvious. Republicans are not merely responding to voter frustration over prices. They're using that frustration as cover while defending a system that protects their institutional advantage. Democrats, by contrast, are being pushed into a narrow task to convert public dissatisfaction into durable control before Republicans can keep translating structural advantage into future majorities. That is why the obsession with wave language is risky. Special elections have shown Democratic overperformance, but special elections are not governing. They are signals. The real test is whether Democrats can turn those signals into chamber control, break veto-proof majorities, and reclaim the ability to block or pass laws that actually reach people's lives. The larger pattern, this is what American politics looks like once one party decides the rules are part of the battlefield. State legislatures are not secondary arenas. They are the machinery of democratic power, and Republicans understand that better than they let on. They have used them to redraw maps, override governors, and entrench policy outcomes even when voters are signaling fatigue. Democrats should not treat 2026 as a feel-good cycle. It is a fight over whether democracy still has enough institutional leverage to punish abuse and reward competence. If the party wants to be the vehicle against authoritarian politics, it has to act like the stakes are structural, because they are. You've been listening to Systemic Error, thanks to Alternet for today's article, with the automated voice of Norman. Thanks for listening.